the Going to College Education Podcast from the Irish Independent in association with Quality and Qualifications Ireland, QQI, promoting quality and accountability in Irish education and training.
Hello and welcome to the third in our Going to College podcast series on independent.ie. The series is brought to you in association with Quality and Qualifications Ireland. My name is John Walsh. I'm an education columnist with the Irish Independent. I'm joined by QQI Chief Executive Pádraig Walsh, Guidance Counsellor Betty McLaughlin and UCD Students' Union Education Officer Stephen Crosby. We're talking today about the second round offers which have just been issued. Quite a number of them have been issued, as they have been in the past. But we want to look at the options available to students who have been made offers and those who haven't been, and what options and what alternative choices can they make at this stage. Betty, can I come to you first? If a student has an offer today, what should they do?
Yes, John. Well, firstly, there'll be two reasons why a student. Well, the main reason why a student will have received an offer today is because the points on the course that they would have, a point on their order of preference would have become available to them, right? And it would have been further up their order of preference than a course that they may already have been given. Okay, so say you might have got your second choice last week, and now a place has become available on a course that your first choice. So they will offer you that. So say you find yourself in that position. You have now got your first choice, but you were given your second choice and you accepted it last week. You now have another choice to make. You can decide, actually, I'm happy enough now with the second course I've got. Leave it alone. Don't touch it. Or you can accept the course that you've got this morning on your level 1, and then that supersedes the other acceptance, and that will be the one that you will be offered. That's the one that you will be going to take up to study in. So that's one position that students need to think about.
Sorry, Betty, just on that.
Yes.
If they're happy with the course and accept it, they don't do anything.
They don't do anything. They just let it go.
They don't tell the CEO, listen, I want to stay where I am.
Absolutely no need. They just leave it be. And very often students actually decide that. So that might happen. Then you may be a student who didn't get an offer last week and you have one today. So you log on, and if you are happy with what you've been offered today, you just click the accept box, and that's that for you. If again round 2 has come and you still haven't got an offer, it's looking less likely, okay? But that's not to say that you're still out of the running or out of the competition, because there will be subsequent rounds right up to the middle of October. However, I would suggest to students who haven't got an offer, do put all your other options on the table. Look at the vacancies, the vacant places that CAO are advertising daily. They're coming on stream daily. That's one thing to do. Consider your post-leaving cert courses. Consider that option, and applying to QQ, looking at the website, looking at qualifax.ie, which is the national database, the most reliable national database we have in the country, that is run by QQI, that is managed by QQI. It's totally up to speed. It gives you information there of every PLC course that is available in the country, county by county, and I would suggest you have a look at that.
Well, Pádraig, after all those fine words about QQI and Qualifax, I'll have to ask you, is it too late to apply for a PLC course?
No, it's not. They take acceptances up to September, so people can apply for the PLC course now by going down to their further education college, or as Betty said, if you look at qualifax.ie, you'll see
when you say September, I mean up to the first week or the second week, or right, can it vary?
Right up to the third week in September, because remember, students in third level and in further ed, they don't start back until the third week, so they will take them in right up to that date.
Okay.
And after.
And so how would a student find out though where there are vacancies on PLC courses? There isn't an equivalent vacancy list, is there, on the Qualifax?
No, there isn't. I mean, much of that is by contacting the college itself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can students get a SUSI grant for a PLC course?
Yes, it's something that people probably, there's a confusion sometimes that students think that they wouldn't apply to a further ed college because they think that would deprive them of the chance then of getting a grant to go to do a level 8 course. But the grant system is meant to be progressive. So if someone is taking a PLC course that's at level 5 in the National Framework Qualifications, if they subsequently graduate from that and then apply to and succeed in getting in to a college place, they'd be taking one at a higher level. It could be a level 7 or a level 8 programme. So the grant system is meant to be progressive. What it doesn't do is allow you to get a grant to take a course at the same level.
Okay. So just to be clear, if I do a 1-year PLC course this September, starting in September, I can go on, if I get a place, of course, in higher education next year, and I'll be able to get a grant in both institutions.
Yeah, if you're eligible.
If I'm eligible, of course. Yeah, sorry. You mean I won't get my necessarily my income, but I'd have to be eligible for
yes,
it. Yeah, grand, yeah. And because I think some students don't quite realise that you can get a progression grant into higher education.
Yes, I mean the idea of the grant system is that it's meant to be progressive. Similarly, if someone has got a grant for an undergraduate degree, they'd be eligible to get in some cases to get a grant for a postgraduate qualification for the living part of that. What you can't do is get a grant to do another level 8 degree and stay there forever.
That's quite understandable. I think there has to be a limit on the state's generosity. Betty, if a student enrolls in a course and they're not happy with it, can they do anything about that? Is there any system that they can move within that college?
Well, in the case of an internal transfer, they're actually not getting a higher offer within the institution, but they may be into their course 2 to 3 weeks and they may decide, oh my God, this is not the course for me. This is not what I want. So in that instance, there is a small window of opportunity. It is totally at the discretion of the admissions and the registrars of each college. But say, for example, a student is doing just, for example, a subject like occupational therapy, and they decided, no, it was the physio I really should have applied for. They can go to their course director, they can go to their admissions office and put their name down on a queue and say, look, if somebody changes over or wishes to transfer or drops out of the physio within a certain reasonable amount of time, would you consider me for an internal transfer? Now, there are conditions around that. First and foremost, you would have needed to have the points for the physio to begin with in that year, and then it is at the discretion of the college if there is a place available. So it happens. It also happens with students who go in to do an arts degree, for example, and they may pick some subjects, they may pick some courses, subjects on their arts degree, and they decide this subject isn't for me. I took geography, I would have preferred history. Then you go to your admissions and you ask for that internal transfer just to be changed over into different subjects, and different courses. Again, at the discretion of the college, again conditional if they have places available, and they can facilitate students. Colleges do the very best that they can to facilitate students. They want their students to be happy. They don't want them to be floundering. So I would say, if you are there, if you find yourself in a course that you are not happy with, before the end of probably the 1st of October, 31st of October at the latest, please go and talk to somebody in the college to see, are there internal possibilities for transfer within that college.
I remember some years ago hearing about a very bright student who was expected to do very well and subsequently did very well in the Leaving Cert, but was under pressure from parents to do medicine because they were going to get the points for medicine, and told don't waste the points on something else. So subsequently enrolled in medicine, but was very unhappy in medicine, went to the college and said, look, I really want to do English literature.
Yeah.
And the college accommodated that student, and the student thrived in English literature. Stephen, some students will be fortunate to get a place in UCD in the second round, but they may have accommodation problems, or will they at this stage?
So I suppose the later a student realises they're going to UCD or any college, the more difficult it is to get accommodation. So in UCD, only about 1,000 spots are reserved for first-year students for on-campus accommodation. But, in UCDSU, we're expecting about 5,000 new first-years to rock in, whether it's on the round 1 of the CAO or round 2. So, 80% of the students are going to be looking outside of on-campus accommodation. So whether that's digs, purpose-built student accommodation, or general renting. I suppose the best thing to do is when you get a round 1 or a round 2 or even round 3's offers, is to immediately contact your sort of internal college supports. So in UCD, we would have a dedicated accommodation officer in our union. Loads of students' unions around the country have an accommodation officer, and a lot of the colleges themselves internally would have their own accommodation support services just to help students sort of get on their feet and find somewhere quickly.
But for students who get a late offer, say today, or get one in the second round, is it too late to get on campus accommodation? Are all those slots gone?
Generally, a lot of the on-campus accommodation slots will be filled at that stage. Now, it's never to say that it's too late. You should always ask. It never hurts to try and put your name into the queue. But I suppose the best thing then would be to try and find, if you can't get on-campus accommodation, is accommodation that is quite close to the university of choice or on a major transport route. But again, as we've probably been hearing in the news, that's a very, very difficult thing for a lot of students to do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Is accommodation much more expensive this year?
I suppose this year as opposed to last year, I mean, nationally we've seen rents go up in general, but like one of the things that we're finding in UCD is that things like digs accommodation rents are going up, which we wouldn't have expected. I mean, obviously there's been proposals for €14,000 tax-free for anyone who offers up a room for digs. The problem with that is that most students are only in the digs for about 9 months, so when you do the maths, that's still about €1,500 a month in rent, which is quite high. On-campus accommodation in UCD has remained relatively stable, but we've seen cases down in Galway and down in DCU where sort of purpose-built student accommodations have had their rents hiked by up to 27%. So it is quite a stressful time for students, which is why we'd always say that as soon as you know you're going to an education institution, to make contact with someone like an accommodation officer, because it is one of the most important things to kind of get locked down.
Yeah, but do you think that this year in particular, because of the high cost of renting or going into digs, that some students will be forced out of college because they can't afford accommodation that's near enough to where they're studying?
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, we would have a couple of things. We'd have students, for example, who would be putting down deposits on places to live in Dublin before they would have even received a CAO offer because they're just so nervous about accommodation. We would have students turning down offers in UCD, Trinity, DIT to go to somewhere like maybe Maynooth, not because it's sort of a better course or where they want to go. It's because the rents are cheaper. The rents are cheaper down in Limerick and Galway, but even still, we've started to notice that these kind of university cities have seen a spike in rents as well. So unfortunately we would. And then the final thing we'd have students commuting massive amounts. So whether it's Selbridge or whether it's Limerick or whether it's out in places in Meath all the way in every day to UCD.
That sounds
John,
like a lot of travel.
you see a significant number of people who do end up commuting. I was always very struck. My daughter's studying out in UCD, and if I would go out to collect her at, say, 5 o'clock on a particular day, I'd see a line of buses outside, which are for commuting students, something that you use and see. And I think that's probably caused by the not just the price, but just simply the difficulty of sourcing. But it does mean it's still a possibility for people. There is a lot of bespoke transport that is put on where people can get a bus in and a bus home. Not ideal, but it does mean that you can't go to the college that you want to go to.
It does, yeah, and that kind of interferes with the college experience, really, doesn't it? You can't get involved in clubs and societies and games and so forth, which is a pity, really, isn't it? Yeah.
And I can say that from Kinnegad and Mullingar, where I'm from, a lot of our students in Mullingar would commute now to DCU.
Every day?
Yes, and there are buses running very, very cost effectively, I have to say, very reasonable fares for students, going right to the door of UCD.
What time would they leave Mullingar at? Yeah.
It depends. Some leave at 7 o'clock in the morning. Some leave at 8. It depends on when their lectures. There's flexibility for them. They may have late lectures. They may have early lectures. It is difficult, but it doesn't. It is one possible route if they cannot find accommodation. If they want to go to college, it's the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think again from today, this is not. It's not over yet. It's not until everybody's satisfied with what they've been offered and what they're doing. But just maybe one last point about, at this stage, if students are still not happy, can they go back and repeat their Leaving Cert?
Of course they can. In the last year, we have seen the number of students repeating their Leaving Cert has dropped by about 70%.
Why is that?
That is because they are choosing the post-Leaving Cert route. And because they are looking to go, they're applying to level 6 and level 7, and there's more of an awareness out there now that you can go into a level 6 course, you can work your way back up to the level 8 course that you wanted. And I think the post-Leaving Cert route has certainly taken a lot of candidates who would have repeated in the past, and when they see the links that have now been forged, there are PLC colleges have amazing links with third level. and places are being kept. There is there's a percentage, and I know that Pádraig would know more about this than I would, but they do hold places for PLC candidates, and the word gets out there when they hear a student was successful through that route. That's something that they want to take too.
Yeah, but PLC courses are not just or solely a scenic and interesting route to higher education. I mean, they're ends in themselves, aren't they?
They are, and I think that's the point, is
Yes.
that they are ends in themselves. They give people a choice, but they are a qualification as of their own right. People can do a 1 year level 5 program, or the second year of that gets people to a level 6 qualification. Many of those are ones that are designed for people to go straight into the workforce. And then afterwards, again, if someone years later wants to come back, you can always get back through to college through the
but particularly, I mean, they have a qualification that's recognised.
They do. They have a qualification
QQI,
that's on the National Framework of Qualifications.
Yeah. Would you mind just explaining very briefly what is that framework and how it operates?
The National Framework of Qualifications is QQI is the custodian, as we say, of it. But what it does is it includes all education programs, from general education from schools up through the post-leaving cert and into the higher education system. So it's a 10 level framework, where 10 is a doctoral degree, 5 is the leaving cert, 8 is an honours bachelor's degree, and levels 5 and 6 are the post-leaving cert QQI award qualifications that people study in further education colleges.
But once you get one level, if you're accepted into another institution, you can go on to the next level. You don't have to, but you
don't have to. No, it's a system of access, transfer, and progression. That's the term that we use.
And Pádraig, do you know roughly what percentage of students who do PLC courses or go on to higher education, and what percentage go directly into the workplace?
Don't have those figures on me. A significant number, I know, go on to higher education. That's often why they do it. I don't have the figures down.
Okay. All right. Look, can I thank you all very, very much? I hope the listeners found that very helpful. I think it was very informative. So can I thank Betty McLaughlin, Pádraig Walsh and Stephen Crosby. Thank you.
The Going to College Education Podcast from the Irish Independent, in association with Quality and Qualifications Ireland, QQI, promoting quality and accountability in Irish education and training.